Is supersonic air travel undergoing a renaissance? Today, a handful of companies are working on the next generation jets that can fly faster than the speed of sound. Although the technology dates back to the 50s, it hasn't taken off in the commercial aviation industry. But now, one company wants to change that and reignite the supersonic jet age. Their deadline? 2023.
This is the Aerion Supersonic business jet.
It's on track to fly the first AS2 by 2023, and it plans to build 5 flight test vehicles en route to certification in 2025.
We are very close to making a supersonic renaissance a reality.
Aerion has been working on launching commercial passenger flights for years. It will produce 300 of its smaller AS2 supersonic business jets. The 8 to 12 passenger aircraft will travel as fast as Mach 1.4 or at more than 1,700 kilometers per hour. That's about 40% faster than the speed of sound. So to put that into context, a typical flight from New York to London takes more than 7 hours. The AS2 will drop it to 4.5 hours. Aerion also recently announced that NetJets, the world's largest fractional provider, has pre-ordered 20 AS2s, and by 2027, the ultra-rich may start using these aircraft. But Aerion is also working on something more ambitious. The AS3TM, if it gets built, would be a 50-passenger supersonic commercial airliner capable of speeds over Mach 4, which is nearly 5,000 kilometers per hour. That means a normally 12-hour flight from, say, Los Angeles to Tokyo will now drop to less than 3 hours. Aerion thinks it can be completed by the end of the decade. Not to be outdone, one of the richest men in the world also has his eyes set on reducing flying times. SpaceX CEO Elon Musk says he's thinking about an electric plane that will transport people at supersonic speeds.
Well, I mean, the exciting thing to do would be some sort of electric vertical takeoff and landing supersonic jet.
Many companies are thinking big, despite the global airline industry suffering its worst downturn due to the coronavirus pandemic. The days when people would fly across the world for business are being replaced with online meetings, so it's still not clear whether demand will ever recover.
Cancelled flights, empty planes, and eerily quiet airports. This is what the impact of the coronavirus epidemic looks like through the lens of travellers.
And if the pandemic isn't enough to convince you that supersonic air travel isn't the best bet right now, this plane could. The last supersonic passenger jet was the Concorde, which was retired more than 17 years ago. Starting in 1976, the British-French aircraft was whisking passengers across the Atlantic at faster than the speed of sound. With a huge price tag for a ticket and a fatal accident, finally grounded the plane in 2003.
The Concorde came to represent class, style, and the miracle of engineering. Here's a normal plane landing, and here's the Concorde landing. Which one are you looking at? With Concorde, we all looked up and pointed, and then in 2003, it stopped.
The world's most prestigious aircraft crashes. More than 100 people are dead.
There's another US startup that also wants to revive supersonic travel. Boom says its aircraft will cost 75% less to operate than the Concorde and will use alternative fuels to lower carbon emissions. It also promises to reduce the noise pollution that comes with supersonic jets. Boom rolled out a demonstrator late last year.
Supersonic is here.
While companies like Boom, Aerion, and SpaceX are eager to kickstart the second supersonic age, critics are doubtful the plans will get off the ground.
I think the difficulty now is they're coming into a changed environment. There is a lot of attention on the environment, on fuel burn, noise. So how do you square the circle of introducing a Concorde-style airliner, you know, for the 1%, perhaps in this sort of new environment?
After nearly 2 decades since the Concorde made its last flight, companies are now showing eagerness to take risky bets on a declining industry and the appeal of getting